Hi, welcome to Two Old Geeks. I'm Jeor Mormont.
And I'm Trace. And today we have a very, very special guest. And you've heard of Mother of Dragons? Well, this is the Mother of Geeks.
Ooh.
That's right. This is Rob and I, his mother Brenda. So anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
So today, if you haven't figured it out yet, we're talking about Game of Thrones. Now, we've kind of got our bases covered here. Robert hasn't read the books or knows very little about the show.
Yeah.
Mom has read one book and
Watched.
is crazy about the HBO series.
Uh-huh.
And I've read all the books, and I like the series. So, kind of everything that can be said has been said about Game of Thrones. But what we want to focus on, especially, is there's a couple of really good life lessons I think we all learned from the book series and from the HBO series. And so, before we do that, who's your favorite character, Mom? Of all those characters, who's your favorite character?
Well, that's easy. You see my egg, you see my dragon. I love Daenerys. Daenerys, I don't care if she was happy, mad, or what. I liked her both ways.
And Robert, you want to tell him how you always get mistaken as George R.R. Martin?
Yeah, I actually went to Comic-Con with my daughters, and I had like 7 teenagers with me, and I was sitting there just trying to keep an eye on them. And I just kept getting called, was it George or?
Yeah, George,
they keep yelling,
yeah.
Everybody kept yelling George at me. And I was like, what in the world is everybody keep yelling George at me? And until I got stopped to be interviewed, and they asked me, when is Winter?
Winds of Winter.
Yeah, when is Winds of Winter coming out? Well, that was a couple years ago.
Right.
And I was like, what? And then their camera broke, and they were like, dang it, George, you kill everything.
Well, I mean, yeah, he just dresses like it all the time. We've even had comments in some of our videos in the past. It's like, oh, I didn't know George R.R. Martin was into science fiction. But we'll start out talking about the book series. The book series is eventually going to be 7 books. And 5 of them's out now. And they're called A Song of Ice and Fire is the book series. And the very first one's called Game of Thrones. And George, he kind of did something different that hadn't been done before when it comes to fantasy. Number one, he wrote a book with hundreds of characters and dozens of locations. And it would have been near impossible for anybody to film, but that's one advantage that books have over top of a TV series, is you're just limited by your own imagination. You can make it as big or as wild as you want. You don't have to worry about a budget. And he made his characters kind of ambiguously moral. So, you know, there's no really true good people and really no true bad people. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their own agenda. And so some really good characters do some bad, and some really bad characters do good. And so that was different. Another thing he did was he's not afraid to kill a character.
Oh, yeah, from what I've heard, yeah.
So whenever you got a main character in danger, that character's really in danger. Whereas a lot of things, like if you watch an old 1966 Star Trek, you know when Kirk and Spock beam down to the planet, they're going to beam back up. Everybody in a red shirt's probably going to die. Well, George, he would kill any character. And so that made it more interesting, too. So you read the first book. Mm-hmm. And how did you think it compared with the first season?
I like reading the books. I like reading the books. They added a lot of things that you didn't get in the first season. But I love the series. You know I love the series. It's seeing it in person and reading it, but you get more information in the books, I think. And yeah. I enjoyed it. But I enjoyed the first season throughout the whole thing.
Well, the first book came out in 1996. And 2 years later, the next book come out. 2 years later, the next book come out. Then it was 5 years between the next book, 6 years between the next book, and it's been 10 years since the last book. 10 years.
Yeah.
So they're on a writing scale. You got Stephen King on this side and George R.R. Martin on this one. Stephen King in the last 10 years come out with over 20 books, over 12 short stories. And George, even during a pandemic, is still just hammering away. They say it's because he writes slow. I think that's kind of an understatement. You know, you could almost write a paragraph a day and eventually finish a book. I think what it is obviously he's 72 now, I think. And the success of the show, he said, slowed him down somewhat. But I think the real issue there is anytime you write something, you're worried about people liking it.
Now, who was it that ended the show? Who came up with the idea for the endings? Of
George, in a way, and we'll get into that in a second. But
I think it was an idiot that ended the show.
well, we'll get into that in a second. So, and George, he writes slow, and I think he's worried about, since nobody liked the ending of the show, nobody will really like the ending of the book series.
Right.
The most surprising death, I think, in the novels is going to be the death of the author. I actually don't think he'll finish the books. He's got another 2 books to go.
There you go.
And I don't think he'll make it. And I think he knows he won't make it. And we'll address that later.
You think that would be some inspiration to try to drive that nail in the coffin, per se?
Yeah, you would think so. Well, a lot of people approached George to make movies of the book series, and he would say no. When HBO approached, they said, look, we will devote 10-hour-long episodes and a huge budget to each book. And so he felt like that could be done right. So they hired 2 young guys, D.B. Weiss and David Benoff. And so they hired these 2 guys, and they had to take all this information, which these books are not small. So they had to take all this information and squeeze it into 10 one-hour episodes. And that's not easy. And those guys were skilled. I mean, you had to cut characters, you had to cut dialogue, you had to flesh out some scenes and totally ignore others. So that is where their skill set was, is taking all that information and condensing it down.
Okay.
Well, something horrible happened, and that is they got beyond the books.
Right.
So whenever they got beyond the books, what happened was, they talked to George, and George basically said, okay, this is what's going to happen next. And spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it, Arya kills the Night King, Daenerys goes mad, Jon kills Daenerys, and Bronn rules. Okay, you got that, guys? All right.
And so they had to come up with, like, filler?
They had to come up with 2 seasons worth. So what they did was they took a year off between the 7th and 8th season. They also shortened those seasons because now they're not taking this much information and condensing it down. Now they're taking this much information and expanding it.
Okay.
And that's where the guys had a problem. And they really kind of failed at that.
Well, that wasn't their skill set.
No, it wasn't their skill set. I mean, they did fantastic. The first, second, and third season, 4th season was probably some of the best television that had been on. And so life lesson number 1, know what you're good at and what you're not good at. And if you can't do something, just, admit it.
Well, one thing we know that they shouldn't have done was left a Starbucks cup on the table.
Yeah, a lot of people criticize, saying that they really didn't put the effort into it. But here's what happened. They'd gotten a trilogy deal from Disney to make Star Wars movies. Well, they did so bad on season 8, they lost that. They had another deal to make a Civil War show for HBO. They done so bad on season 8, they lost that. They've been better off just walking away. But I will give them credit. They finished it. George probably won't finish these books. But those guys, no matter how bad you like season 8 or whether you love it or hate it, they actually finished it. They sucked it up and they got the job done. It wasn't their skill set, but they did get it done. Now, it's questionable whether they should have called in some help or not. So, what do you know anything about Game of Thrones?
I was about to say, let's say for some of our viewers' sake, like myself, what is the premise of the show? Is it kind of like a giant episode of Risk? Different lands trying to take over one land.
Yes.
I don't understand the wall.
Yeah, I mean it's.
When they're trying to get to that iron
Everybody,
Throne?
it was good. It was good for them to
Yeah,
name the
something
show instead of A Song of Ice and Fire, like the book series. Just naming it Game of Thrones. Everybody's jockeying for power,
Okay.
and so, the show overall was good. In the very last season, when the dragon melted the throne, if you just stop watching there, it's kind of watchable. It would, if they'd ended the show there, you wouldn't have known who ended up on top and who didn't end up on top.
Well, Daenerys didn't.
Daenerys? No.
And John killed her. Who thought of that?
That would have been George. They was following George. Now, now George is in a unique situation. He's got to finish these books when everybody knows the ending.
Right.
Now he's already admitted he's going to tweak the book somewhat.
I was about to say he don't have to end it the way they
No,
ended it.
and I would. But the important thing for George, and what I would tell to George, because I'm sure he's watching this.
Right.
There he sits right over there, so I know he's listening. It's just finish the book the way you want. Who cares if anybody likes it but you? It's your book. You finish it. Finish it the way you want. But come on, man, finish it. 10 years between books? That's ridiculous.
Maybe he's just
So
tired.
you're an avid reader.
Right.
How come you didn't continue with the books? Because I know books are more your thing than.
Well, it's like everybody else. That last season really turned you off. The whole thing had been really, really good through the whole process, and everybody. I liked Winterfell. I liked King's Landing. I liked all of the different places for the reasons of what they were.
Okay.
But there at the last, first off, you killed mob dragons. Second off, you killed Daenerys, and John did it. And when all of that come about, I didn't care if I saw any more or read any more.
Well, to me, it didn't bother me how it ended. I didn't care who ended up on the Iron Throne, and I didn't care who lived and who died.
Well, as you said, Bronn did.
Yeah, but what I cared about is how they got from point A to B. It just was. There's something called foreshadowing. In other words, like, okay, he's going to turn evil sometime in the future, and I give little clues that he's going to turn evil instead of just you waking up tomorrow morning and you're evil. It's good writing to kind of. They kind of rushed everything at the end, and I understand why. I understand why, because that's all the information they had to go on, was just basically a sheet of paper.
Is there like a prehistory before, like?
Yeah, he's written some.
It just starts out with an Iron Throne.
Yeah,
Where did that come from?
Well, it was actually the throne was during a big war. They'd taken 10,000 swords, and one of the dragons had melted it. Another thing George did good is he made magic magical. So lots of times when you watch a fantasy novel, you've got, when you read a fantasy novel, this guy does magic, that guy does magic, here's a magic book, here's a magic sword. There's magic everywhere, and magic isn't magical. So he really started out the world, whereas magic had been, but it kind of been forgotten. And so it was gradually starting to creep back into the world. So when something happened, everybody was amazed at it, even though they had heard about it in the
Now,
past.
what magic is there other than the dragon there?
Well, you got the Night King, and once the dragons come back in, there was like
So is there
wizards.
there is wizards and witches
Yeah,
in it?
there's magic and
Okay.
elves and stuff like that.
Yeah. You've not watched much of it?
I watched like maybe 30 minutes of it. My wife was watching it, and I seen somebody get beheaded, and then I seen somebody's willy, and I was like, eh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to wrap things up, we got something we want to present you,
Oh yeah.
and you,
Me?
yeah, you, yeah.
Of course, we always give all our guests a 2-0 Geek shirt.
Oh.
But this is not just a 2-0 Geek shirt. This is
A
mother
Mother of 2-0
Geeks.
Geeks
You
shirt.
heard of Mother of Dragons,
Put
and
that
Mother
on
of
while
2-0
ago.
Geeks. Yeah, and also we have a giveaway. 2 horns.
Yeah,
You
we
wanna talk
had
about that?
the drinking horn by
Yeah.
MGM
Right.
in the last giveaway, and the blowing horn.
Right.
And the winner of that is Ninjamie.
And Jamie.
Yeah.
That's like a regular ninja, except they play a guitar, electric guitar. I think
Okay.
it's, but our giveaway today will be I'm cosplaying as Jeor Mormont,
Oh.
And I'd made that several years ago. And he was wanting to give the sword to Jon Snow. But I bought this sword and customized it, made the scabbard for it. There's a map beyond the wall. So I'll be giving this away. To win it, you have to like, comment, and be a subscriber. And we'll announce the winner next video. So you've got some merchandise you want to show off? Oh, I'm going to throw in this dragon glass dagger, too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
You need that if you're going to.
Yeah, kill White Walkers. Now this is made of Reynolds wrap and yarn, so I don't know how effective it will be. But anyway, you had some stuff you wanted to show.
Well, the first thing I'm proud of is this. This is Mother of Dragons, and my dragons are called Tracy, Robert, and Matthew. And that's true. Every one of you is dragons. I raised you, I know. But that's my prized possession. The second thing is my egg. Tracy gave me the egg years and years ago. It's held everything from money until I found my dragon. And I think Teresa got me the dragon one year to put on my shoulder, and I can get her up there, but she hurts. But those are two of my prized possessions. And then the book, that's Game of Thrones. And the thing about this book, it has all the kingdoms in it.
It's a pop-up book.
A pop-up book,
that's pretty
right?
slick.
And it has King's Landing, and then from King's Landing, we go to. Well, that's Arn. I got to get back to my right one now because I can't leave out. Okay, how do I get there?
Winterfell?
Yeah, Winterfell. Is he next?
Yeah, I think so.
That's mine.
That's your favorite.
Winterfell. This is where all the Starks were.
Right, and that was your favorite family.
This was my favorite. I loved all the Starks
What's
from
with the tree?
The tree. Now
we'll talk about it later.
Oh, now,
Okay.
that's the heart tree of the God's Wood,
Okay.
and it has a face, and it will cry real blood tears. But this is something really, really neat because it not only has that one, it also has the wall.
There, turn that around
Yeah.
so it makes it.
Hold the bottom because the bottom's got
Okay.
it. And you go on and you go on until you get my favorite one is Denari, and this is his castle. You have to go through these two giant horses to get through there.
Okay, is that
And-
this guy here?
Yeah, Khal Drogo.
That's him. Oh, I'll take him home with me.
Well, you might have to find Mary for that.
Might have to.
But-
But
so-
that's my prized possessions of it,
So our 2 life lessons: know your skill set,
right?
and the ending is more important than the beginning or the middle. So like, it don't matter how you start out in life. If you start out rough, don't matter what might happen to you in the middle. Most important thing is how your life ends. So make sure it ends well, and make sure these books end well, because the TV series did. So, are you done, Mom?
Yes.
Okay, I have a kiss. There you go. You done?
And
I'm
this-
done.
Okay. All right, I think
This
we're
isn't
done.
Martin.
I think we're done.